Hello and welcome. It is time for our first monthly wrap-up of the year, and the curse of the wrap-ups continues. I just turned on my camera to film this and my battery is dying. So, I don't know why this happens. Literally every month, something goes wrong with the wrap-up. So we're gonna have to be quick. Again. You'd think I would just learn to check it before doing this, but I didn't, so it is what it is. So I had a pretty good reading month considering I was like super sick for the first 2 weeks of January. I barely read at all in the first like week and a half or so, but I did manage to make up for it in the latter half of the month. So it still ended up being a pretty good month. So I read a total of 17 books in January, which was 5,955 pages and 70 hours of audiobook listening. Damn, I did not think I read that much. I also DNF'd 4 books, so let's talk about those ones first. So the first one I DNF'd was A Botanical Daughter. With this one, the writing was a little bit too good for me. It was very creepy, and the body horror was already a lot for me to handle, and I knew that it was only gonna get more intense, so not the book for me, but definitely the book for other people. This would have been fantastic, and I'm really sad that I just couldn't stomach it. And then for episode 1 of Backlist Bash, I DNF'd 3 books, and those were Entangled, Of Fire and Stars, and very sadly, The Storm of Life. This one I'm especially sad about because the first book in this series is like one of my favorite books of all time, or was at the time that I read it. And then for the books that I did read, the first book that I read this year was Sorcery and Small Magics by Maiga Doocy, I think is how you pronounce the name. I gave this a 4-star. It was such a cute, sweet, cozy fantasy romance. It was adorable. I loved the setting of it. The magic was really cool. I think it's going to be a series as well, and I can't wait to see where it goes. I'm really looking forward to learning more about this world and the characters and all that good stuff. I'm a sucker for academic rivals to lovers. I think it was so fun. And then Forced Proximity as well. It's a whole bunch of good stuff that I loved. And yeah, overall this was a very strong read, and I can't wait to see where it goes with the next books in the series. And then my backlist bash reads I'm not going to get into detail about because I do have a whole vlog for them, but just to quickly recap them. The first one was Daughter of Smoke and Bone by Laini Taylor. This one really surprised me. I gave it 4 stars. I did not expect to like it, and I actually really enjoyed it. It was fantastic. So more thoughts in the vlog if you want to watch that. I'll leave it linked. The Merciful Crow by Margaret Owen. Also loved it. I knew that I would because I do like this author. This was fantastic, and I also gave it a 4-star. Romanov by Nadine Brandis. This one was kind of surprising that I finished it because there was really nothing good about it. Which is mean to say, but like the characters were bland, the setting was unimaginative, the plot was good but nothing special, the world building was non-existent. But for some reason, I couldn't put it down. No idea why, I just kept turning pages, couldn't stop reading it. So that has some merit to it, I guess. And I gave it a 3.5 star. And then last for Backlist Bash was The Boneless Mercies by April Genevieve Tucholke. Not sure how to pronounce that last name. I feel like that was definitely not correct, but I tried. This one was also surprising. I've had it on my shelf forever, and I kept meaning to pick it up, and I just kept not doing it. I thought this was a fully different book than it actually was. I don't know what book I thought it was, but this was not the plot that I was expecting, and it was great. This is a retelling of Beowulf with a bunch of badass female characters who are, what do they call them, like death maids or something like that, where they go around and they help people to commit suicide if they're sick or dying, but they don't want to do that anymore, so they decide to go on a quest to hunt a monster. And it was great. I had a really fun time with this one. Gave it 4 stars, and again, more in the vlog. And back to the non-backlist bash reads. I read Loud by Drew Afualo. I'm a huge fan of her online presence, and I was very hyped to read her memoir, and it was fantastic. I loved it. I gave it a 5-star because I feel bad not giving memoirs 5 stars, you know? Like, it feels weird to like rate somebody's life. So pretty much any memoir that I read will always be 5 stars, even if it's like not the most impactful, but I did really enjoy this one. I learned a lot about her life and her culture and all these cool things. She had a lot of really good things to say that were very insightful, and yeah, she's a cool person, and I was happy to get to learn more about her. Somewhere Beyond the Sea by TJ Klune. My library hold was not meant to come in for quite a while, but it came in super early and I was so happy about it. This one I read in one day. I could not put it down. It was so sweet and so cute and adorable, and I loved every single second of it. This book made me bawl my eyes out, as expected with the TJ Klune book. I gave it a full 5 stars. Oh my god, this had me in my feels so hard. And then I had another nonfiction. I read Namwayut, We Are All One by Robert Joseph. He was a survivor of the 60s scoop and spent many years in a residential school. And now as an adult, he's been huge in the Indigenous rights movement in Canada and has done so much. And his memoir was absolutely incredible. It was heartbreaking. He does not at all shy away from the horrible things that he's had to go through in his life. But despite everything that he's been through, he still has so much hope and joy for his life. And I think that it was so beautiful. I learned a lot from this memoir, and I definitely recommend anyone from North America to pick this one up. And I gave it 5 stars as well. Next up was The Flicker by HE Edgmon. This one is a post-apocalyptic middle grade about 2 step-siblings and their infant brother trying to walk across several states trying to find the one's grandmother after their parents pass away. The first half of this book was pretty rough, I'm not gonna lie. The kids were super annoying. They were constantly bickering about the tiniest things and it was very frustrating, but things did pick up later on. So I ended up really enjoying it. I gave it a 3.5 stars. I had a fun time reading it. I love this author as well. I'm a big fan of their work. The writing was great, the world was very imaginative, and I really liked how everything wrapped up in the latter half of the book. I reread What Moves the Dead by T. Kingfisher. My coworker invited me to join her in-person book club, and that was their book for the month, so I joined in, and I had a blast getting to talk about it in person with a bunch of cool people. I love this book so much. It's so creepy, and the fungal imagery is disgusting and it's so effective. This is the perfect kind of horror for me. It is so disgustingly good. And I hate it, but I also love it at the same time. And I gave it a 4.5 star. I finally, at long last, read The Two Towers by Tolkien. It's the second book in the Lord of the Rings trilogy. I read the first book I think 7 or 8 years ago and finally got around to picking up book 2. I loved it so much. I knew that I would, but just because this book is so dense and daunting, it took me a long time to want to pick it up, and it took me roughly 3 weeks to read it, so definitely a long time, but it was well worth it. I love this story. I love the characters so much. I love hobbits so much. I think they're so fun. I gave this one a solid 4 stars. I can't wait to continue it, and I also really want to do a full rewatch of all the movies now as well, which I'll probably do soon. I'm actually rewatching Rings of Power currently. It's been a very Lord of the Rings heavy month, and I love that for me. I read A Fragile Enchantment by Allison Saft. This one was so cute and soft and sweet, and I loved it. I loved all the descriptions of clothing and all the food and the balls. It was so extravagant and I ate this up. It was excellent. It wasn't a perfect book for me. I did have some issues with the characters, and the plot was pretty predictable. Like literally nothing surprised me at all, but I did have a really fun time reading it and I gave it 4 stars. Next up was The Truth According to Ember by Danica Nava. This one is a contemporary office romance about a indigenous woman who lies on her resume saying that she's white and that she also went to accounting school in order to get a job as an accountant, and it works. She gets the job and she now has to navigate this workplace with these lies, and she keeps lying over and over and over again trying to cover her tracks. I liked this one. It was good, but I found the consistent lying to be a bit much, and it was really frustrating because she was lying about things that really didn't matter. I liked the lies for the initial reason and then the conflict towards the end. I liked those ones, but everything in the middle was just kind of frustrating to read and didn't really make any sense to me. So it was still good and I do recommend it. It just wasn't the perfect book for me personally, so I gave it a 3.5 star, somewhere around there. Oh hi, it's several days later. My battery died and I haven't had time to finish this, so let's get back to it. I'm pretty sure I left off when I was just about to talk about my favorite book of the month, because of course. I picked up The Last Gifts of the Universe by Riley August in January, and this book blew me away. If you are a fan of A Song for the Wild Built and books like that, that genre of sci-fi that is very hopeful and just lovely, this is very much that, and it was exactly what I needed in the moment. It brought me so much joy. This one is about 2 siblings and their orange cat. Since I'm mentioning orange cat, I have to see if I can turn my camera Can I do it? Look at this guy. Just chilling. Having a good time. And the three of them are going around the universe trying to figure out what entity killed all of these planets before it comes for their own planet. Which sounds very much not cozy, and there is definitely higher stakes than a cozy normally would have, but the vibes of this was just so lovely because as they're going to all of these planets, they're finding these caches that the people of those planets left before they died, and the messages that they left were so beautiful and heartwarming and heartbreaking, and I loved every single second of this book. It went right to my favorite shelf. This was such a good book. I'm planning on buying a copy soon so I can keep reading it over and over again. This is definitely going to be a new comfort read for me, that just one of the ones that I read whenever I need a pick-me-up, and I can't wait to read this over and over and over again. It was fantastic, and I gave it a full 5 stars, of course. And then I read We Will Be Jaguars by Namonte Nankimo. This is another memoir that I read this month. I did a lot of nonfiction this month, which is very rare for me, but I do have a goal to read more nonfiction this year, so far I'm doing well with that. But this one is about a woman who was born and raised in a tribe in the Amazon rainforest, and what her life was like growing up there with the colonizers trying to destroy their way of life. Not only trying to erase their culture, but also trying to destroy the land to dig for oil. And later in her life, she becomes a huge advocate for saving the Amazon rainforest and has done so much work for it over the years. She's an incredible person that I hadn't heard of before, but now that I have, I definitely want to look more into her life and the things that she's done. This was a fantastic read. I also gave it 5 stars. The first half was mostly about her childhood and it was so interesting, and the second half was mostly about her work, and both halves were so good and so interesting, and I definitely learned a lot from this book, and I had a fantastic time reading it. It was very eye-opening, made me bawl my eyes out. It was so good. I definitely recommend this one. And then I picked up The Maid and the Crocodile by Jordan Ifueko. This is a spin-off of the Raybearer series, which I haven't read yet, but you don't have to have read that to be able to read this one. And this was fantastic. It was so sweet and cute and cozy, and I absolutely loved it. I read it with the Cozy Quill book club on Fable. My camera just keeps shutting off for literally no reason. So I'm done with this video now. Long story short, I had a great time reading A Witch's Guide to Fate Dating a Demon. It was really fun. I loved the characters. I'm really looking forward to reading the sequels. There were 2 side characters that I was really hoping would get a romance, and they do indeed have a future book. So I'm definitely going to be continuing with this series. And yeah, that is everything that I read. This was a nightmare to film. I don't know why the universe hates when I try and film wrap-up so much, but this is very frustrating. So I apologize for the chaoticness of this video. If you made it to the end, thanks, I appreciate it, and I will catch you guys later on.